African leaders press Putin to end Ukraine war and restore grain supplies.
Here's a summary of the article.
July 28 – African leaders pressed Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday to move ahead with their plan to end the Ukraine conflict and to renew a deal crucial to Africa on the safe wartime export of Ukrainian grain, which Moscow tore up last week. While not directly critical of Russia, their interventions on the second day of a summit were more concerted and forceful than those that African countries have voiced until now. This war must end. And it can only end on the basis of justice and reason, African Union Commission Chairman Moussa Faki Mahamat told Putin and African leaders in St. Petersburg. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa told Putin, "We feel that we have a right to call for peace. The ongoing conflict also negatively affects us." The stream of calls prompted Putin repeatedly to defend Russia's position and finally make an 8-minute statement, later issued by the Kremlin in a video, at the start of evening talks with the African leaders behind the peace plan. Putin wanted the summit to energize Russia's ties with Africa and enlist its support in countering what he describes as U.S. hegemony and Western neo-colonialism. The leaders of Mali and Central African Republic, whose governments have relied heavily on the services of Russia's Wagner mercenary group, both expressed gratitude to Putin.
This post received a score of 9,500, with an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Putin, we're like one of your only 4 friends. Restore the FC King grain deal please?
Putin? Not one of only 5 friends. I just made Niger a friend, don't worry. And you will remain my friends. It would be a shame if you weren't. Then I couldn't protect you from events like what happened in Niger. I'm a liberator from colonialism. Now give me your gold.
Putin has shown he doesn't particularly care about soft power, and these African nations sadly don't have much soft power to begin with. It still means something that they are being openly critical of Putin's decisions. Every little bit helps.
They can criticize Putin now that they don't depend on his goodwill anymore. Putin destroyed the only leverage he had with them, food.
More like he showed them he is willing to use that leverage, and was hoping they would be hissing his ass for cheap Russian grain instead of the Ukraine one is denying them. It backfired, but I am a bit surprised it went that badly. I would think more were willing to kiss his ass for cheap grain and improved popularity back home.
Cheap Russian grain today is expensive Russian grain tomorrow. Anyone with enough brain cells to remember yesterday or the day before that knows Russian won't keep its deals, promises, and just jerk them around over every last cent they can get the second they depend on Russia.
Just like the cheap Russian gas Western Europe was depending upon. Looking at you, decommissioned German nuclear plants.
I distinctly remember being called a little islander idiot 10 years ago when I said that relying on Russian gas was a stupid idea for Europe. Well, wish I'd been more public about it now. Or maybe best not. I am quite fond of the higher floors and balconies.
In principle, entwining trade as much as possible without becoming completely dependent is a good strategy. Greed usually beats ambition, and waging wars that piss off your trade partners is usually bad business. People underestimated how much more ambitious than greedy Putin was.
It's not a good strategy because it assumes all humans are rational, and that their interests are purely economic. Well, not all humans are. In fact, most aren't. Some are just cunts. And many of them are at the top of the totem pole in places like Russia, China, and probably about half of the world beyond that. The only way to win versus such people is to ensure that you can crush them if push comes to shove.
I guess they have to try. But what will probably happen is that Putin will give them stolen grain in return for being allowed to build a military base in the country or something similar.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.